University of Georgia not long ago, and it has become a flashpoint for many Republicans, with the suspect in that case a migrant who crossed into this country. And Republicans have gone so far, some of them, as to suggest that President Biden has blood on his hands in her death. Her parents were invited, chose not to come.
Well, a lot of the members of Congress, the Republican members of Congress, are wearing either pins or ribbons, or in some cases a picture of that young woman who was tragically killed. And we just saw Marjorie.
There's nothing more obvious than fucking that you don't actually give a shit about anything than being like, yeah, dude, actually say her name. Like, you don't give a fuck, dude. You're just using it for politics. It's crazy.
Which in past years it's 5, 6, 7 minutes, but this is somebody who wants to greet every person, who wants to do retail politicking with these members of Congress.
Someone let
and
the
in
IDF
some cases,
know.
Kristen, these members of Congress will come in the afternoon. Unless you're a member of leadership, there's no designated seating, so you got to see your seat. And members of Congress will do it to snap a selfie, or in the case perhaps of Marjorie Taylor Greene, to have that moment. Here's Joe Manchin.
Here's Joe Manchin, who's, of course, announced he's not running for re-election. Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Democrats very concerned, bracing for the very strong likelihood that they will lose that seat. But look, I go back to what we were saying, that Joe Biden has spent a lot of time in these chambers. One of his closest aides was asked, is he nervous for a moment this big? The answer from this aide was no, he doesn't get nervous. This is where he is most comfortable. In terms of the top officials we've seen within his administration, I was struck by Secretary Antony Blinken, who has spent weeks, months overseas trying to secure a deal to get the hostages released in the Middle East, in Israel's war against Hamas.
I'm not saying anything.
They have not been able to reach that deal. That looms large over this.
There may be some policy announcements this very night on that issue, because this is obviously a huge international issue. It's a political issue for President Biden, as well as many young voters. Many voters on the progressive left are dismayed at the president's wholehearted support for Israel. We heard the Vice President Kamala Harris with very strong words asking for a ceasefire.
We'll see if he matches those words or goes farther.
That's right. I mean, this is one of the most complicated policy issues that this administration and this president faces. We anticipate that he's going to announce a new ramped-up military effort to get aid into Gaza, and so that is going to be significant. But this has divided the Democratic Party, with young voters signaling that they disapprove.
We hear a chant. I want to go to Ryan Nobles, who's in the chamber.
Bro,
Ryan,
so
are you hearing 4
Trumpy.
more years? How are your powers of hearing and lip reading?
Hopefully I can hear a little bit better in the actual room, Savannah. But yes, it did appear as the president made his way down past
Joe Biden.
The actual
Okay,
seating of the members. He's now, of course, making his way to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, just greeted members of the Supreme Court. But just as he got down to kind of the final stage before he heads up to the lectern, the Democratic members were chanting 4 more years and clapping loudly for the president. You know, it's interesting. It's really kind of starting to see him in a room like this where he is so great one-on-one. That is what President Biden is.
Why does it go so fucking hard? Why did they make it so unimaginably hard? It's too much.
Feel like they're the most important person in the room, and even in a venue like this where he has cameras staring at him, millions of people watching all over the world, he takes a moment with each and every person that he sees as he makes his way down the aisle and has that moment with them. In some cases it's like he's seeing a friend he hasn't seen in a long time with a big hug, and it looks as though he's sharing some sort of moment with him. And just to get back to that moment with Marjorie Taylor Greene coming down the aisle, you know, we could see her don her hat, clearly looking to have a viral moment. She also had her camera phone pointed at the president the entire time, so I'm sure that's something that she's going to attempt to make a big deal of on conservative media. It didn't seem to bother the president at all. It couldn't tell from our vantage point whether or not he engaged with her or just kind of walked by as she was trying to get her message to him. So this is, I would imagine, somewhat of a frustration for the planners of this event here tonight. I don't know if they back-timed enough or worked up enough time for Joe Biden to greet all these folks. You know, I think there's a level of frustration for him as president that he doesn't have the opportunity to have these conversations as frequently as he did when he was a member of the Senate.
Well, he is taking the podium now, and we'll be hearing from the president in a moment. And Krista, very quickly, as we watched him a moment ago pass by members of the Supreme Court, and it made me wonder, at least, how many times will this court potentially touch issues related to this race?
Absolutely. We await their decision on whether former President Trump deserves immunity in the January 6th trial, Lester.
Tony. Thank you. Look at Jill. Good evening. Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans, in January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation, and he said, "I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment
the next
either.
Hitler's coming over the border,
Not
folks.
since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy
We got to
been
put
under
a stop
assault
to the
at home
Guatemalan migrants.
as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time.
Oh my God! Is he going to say
Overseas,
Hamas is attacking?
Putin of Russia is on the
democracy?
march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not. But Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop
Okay,
Putin
Kamala, fucking chill,
if we stand
dog.
with Ukraine and provide the weapons that needs to defend itself.
Damn, Kamala dick riding so fast, dude. She already got up to clap twice.
That is all. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers.
Which country Biden
In fact,
will
there are
say
no
first?
American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm
Ukraine
determined
got 26
to keep it that
million
way.
points, baby.
But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. It wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered,
Oh, it was
Mr.
Russia?
Gorbachev,
Technically, it was
tear
Russia
down
that was
this
mentioned
wall.
first.
Now,
Russia was number 2 at 5.9 million, or 5.9
now
million
my
points for Russia.
predecessor, a former Republican president tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually
Trump,
said
he
that,
mentioned Trump.
bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
His mouth is shaking. What the fuck? Yo, he's gumming. He's gumming, dude. Look at these fucking little shits. They're so mad.
America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations, created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace.
Yeah, that's
And
what it does.
today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. We're going to stand up. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And they know how to fight. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world has ever seen. I say this to Congress, we have to stand up to Putin. Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching.
Just shut up, Hassan.
The United States walks away.
I'm not even talking, dummy.
It will put Ukraine at risk.
Do you think
Europe
I'm the
is at
president?
risk. The free world will be at risk, emboldening others to do what they wish to do us harm. My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk
Stealing
away.
content? Yes, I am.
We will not bow down. I will not bow down.
It's funny he says Sweden knows how to fight. Fight who, bro?
In a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching. Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th, when insurrectionists stormed this very Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy. Many of you were here on that darkest of days. We all saw with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed. America stood.
Bro, he's on that good shit, but he's already slowing down, actually.
America stood strong, and democracy prevailed.
M3LP, thank you for the 10 gifted.
We must be honest. The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win. As I've done ever since being elected to office,
Thank you, my bourbon gamer.
I ask all of you, without regard to party, to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office, foreign and domestic.
The fuck?
Respect free and fair elections. Restore trust in our institutions. And make clear political violence has absolutely no place in America, zero place. Again, it's not hyperbole to suggest history is watching. We're watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do. History is watching another assault on freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama. 14 months ago, 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF.
Personal story.
She scheduled treatments to have that second child. But the Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer.
It's funny because like the Republicans have to not give this, not hand this as a W to Biden, but they can't look like insane people, so they're actually cooked on the IVF shit. Like they have to push the IVF bill, and that will give an automatic dub to Brandon.
Like most Americans, I believe Roe v. Wade got it right.
Sean King.
I thank Vice President Harris for being an incredible leader, defending reproductive freedom, and so much more.
Sean King is too busy in Gaza doing deals, releasing hostages and shit.
My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it. Look at the chaos that has resulted. Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening to too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need. Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look, it's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that. Clearly. Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
Oh, no. Bro, he's rebooting. He's already rebooting.
If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again. Folks, America cannot go back. I'm here tonight to show what I believe is the way forward, because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century.
COVID.
Remember the fear, record losses. Remember the spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind. A mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable.
What the fuck was that?
I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history.
The fuck was that
We
noise?
have. It doesn't make news in 1,000 cities and towns. The American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told. So let's tell the story here. Tell it here and now. America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down, investing in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot, and we leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer, turning setback into comeback. That's what America does. That's what America does. Folks, my inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record, a record. Unemployment at 50-year lows. A record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope. With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting. Where Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We will.
Why are they showing Janet?
More people have health insurance today. More people have health insurance today than ever before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up. Inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower. The landing is and will be soft. And now, instead of importing foreign products and exporting American jobs, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs right here in America, where they belong. And it takes time, but the American people are beginning to feel it. Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund,
said, fuck you, Bill
like
Clinton.
helping build American roads,
damn, he's got
and
smoke for the
highways,
Clintons that
will be
hard.
made with American products and built by American workers.
He said, let me tell you, I got smoke for the Clintons. He hates Hillary so much. He fucking hates Hillary so much.
And thanks to our CHIPS and Science Act, the United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree. In fact,
so far, this is a pretty good speech.
Attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America.
Pretty good speech overall so far. He's hitting all the high notes.
And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you have strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. And if any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernize our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. Removing
Mike Johnson liked that one. He 100%. That was a good line. If any of those of you that don't want that money, let me know. That's a good ass bar. That's a bar. He's right.
Affordable high-speed internet for every American, no matter where you live. Urban,
okay, that's
suburban,
a cap. That's a cap. That's not happening. Fuck
in
you.
red states and blue states. Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in a family farm.
Oh, you know it's good. You know it's good when fucking these babies start crying like this. You know the speech is good.
Buddy, I know. We're better able to stay in the family for those farms and their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, and new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars there at the same. The folks of Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind, your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs of the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America. Here tonight is UAW President Shawn Fain, a great friend and a great labor leader. Shawn, where are you? Stand up. And Dawn Sims, a third-generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Shawn, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line, and today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys. They didn't build it, though. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
Say workers, motherfucker. Say workers built the country. Middle class is a bullshit designation. It's workers that built the country.
I say to the American people, when America gets knocked down, we get back up. We keep going. That's America. That's you, the American people. It's because of you America's coming back. It's because of you our future is bright. It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
That's the bar. You got to say that.
Tonight, I want to talk about the future of possibilities that we can build together. A future where the days of trickle-down economics are over and the wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from a state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the United States combined. And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation, but I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put much on my dad's kitchen table. That's why I determined to turn things around so middle class does well.
Dog, when trickle-down economics was presented, you were already in Congress for like 20 years. The fuck are you talking about?
There's more to do.
Your dad was dead, dumbass. You were literally a senator.
Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world.
I think he was like literally the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee at this point. The fuck? Oh my God. Oh my God, it's happening. Chad, it's happening.
What I proposed and signed, not one of you Republican buddies voted for it. We finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit. And I want to...
Fuck the healthy profits.
I want to cap...
They can suck my dick, healthy profit.
$35 a month for every American who needs it. Everyone. For years, people have talked about it, but finally we got it done and gave Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion. Because Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma.
He ain't talking about Israel, bro.
Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market that treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade.
He has to. He's gonna talk about the pork. He has to talk about the situation in Gaza. He has to.
And they'll still be extremely profitable. will not only save lives, it will save taxpayers another $200 billion. Starting next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year. Even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Now I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone. Folks, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get an Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, even Moscow, probably. And bring your prescription with you, and I promise you I'll get it for you for 40% the cost you're paying now. Same company, same drug, same place. Folks, the Affordable Care Act, the old Obamacare, is still a very big deal. Over 100 million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. But my predecessor, and many in this chamber, want to take this prescription drug away by repealing the Affordable Care Act.
Bro's running on repealing the Affordable Care Act again. God damn. God damn.
We stopped you 50 times before, and we'll stop you again. In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it. We enacted tax credits of $800 per person per year, reduce health care costs for millions of working families. That tax credit expires next year. I want to make that savings permanent. To state the obvious, women are more than half our population. But research on women's health has always been underfunded.
Social's not working.
That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady. So pass my plan for $12 billion to transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America. I know the cost of housing is so important to you. If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well, and the Fed acknowledges that. But I'm not waiting. I want to provide an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years as mortgage rates come down, to put toward their mortgages when they buy their first home or trade up for a little more space. Just for 2 years.
That's crazy. Oh my God, Republicans are going to say he's buying votes. That's actually wild. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, but like, good that he's lying at least.
And my administration is also eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws by price fixing and driving up rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping build a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide. Now pass and
Bro
build.
said we're deregulating building.
2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down.
Good to present it as like going up against big business and big landlords. Obviously, that's not the reality, but still good to like even try to message it positively.
Remain the strongest economy in the world. We need to have the best education system in the world.
For the record, everything he's promising he's not going to do, this is how State of the Unions work.
Want to give every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. You know, I think I pointed out last year, that children coming from broken homes where there's no books, they're not read to, not spoken to very often, start school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken. Well, studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school, go on to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is. I met a year and a half ago with the leaders of the Business Roundtable. They were mad that they were angry. I think, well, they were discussing why I wanted to spend money on education. I pointed out to them as vice president, I met with over I think it was 182 of those folks. Don't hold me to the exact number. And I asked them what they need most, the CEOs. And you've had the same experience.
Daily Wire only has 20K people watching, and Ben called out someone saying you're bigger than him on chat law. Let's fucking go!
I say, I come from Delaware. DuPont used to be the 8th largest corporation in the world. And every new enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that
Clip
anymore.
it and ship it to me, please.
Why are you angry with me providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world? And they all looked at me and said, I think you're right. I want to expand high-quality tutoring and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by third grade.
Look, I'm a fair motherfucker, bro. I mean, he's lying, but at least he's lying. The bar is very low, but, like, honestly, he's clearing it right now. He's actually fucking the bar.
Local businesses in high schools, so students get hands-on experience and a path to good-paying job, whether or not they go to college. And I want to make sure that college is more affordable. Let's continue increasing the Pell Grants to working and middle-class families and increase record investments in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, including Hispanic institutions.
Bro, we've been begging for him to do the fucking bare minimum, and he's finally doing it. By the way, those yellow ribbons that you see are...
And I was told I couldn't universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans. I fixed 2 student loan programs
to bring the hostages
back, to reduce the burden of student debt.
It's a way to try to say, like, oh, bring the hostages back, but it's like created by someone who
and others in public service
is pro the ethnic cleansing of Gaza.
Like Keenan Jones, a public educator from Minnesota.
I forget who it was. I forget the name of the it's like a Hollywood PR agency.
Keenan, thank you. He's educated hundreds of students so they can go to college. Now he's able to help, after debt forgiveness, get his own daughter to college. And folks, look, such relief is good for the economy because folks are now able to buy a home, start a business, start a family. While we're at it, I want to give public school teachers a raise.
Damn, dude. Who is this Maoist?
And by the way, the first couple of years, we cut the deficit. Now, let me speak to the question of fundamental fairness for all Americans.
Nobody cares about the deficit.
I've been delivering real results in fiscally responsible ways. We've already cut the federal deficit. We've already cut the federal deficit over $1 trillion. I signed the bipartisan deal to cut another $1 trillion in the next decade. It's my goal to cut the federal deficit another $3 trillion by making big corporations and very wealthy finally beginning to pay their fair share.
What? Did he say he's making big corporations very wealthy? I'm confused.
I'm a capitalist. If you want to make or can make $1 million or millions of bucks, that's great. Just pay your fair share in taxes. A fair tax code is how we invest things to make this country great. Healthcare, education, defense, and so much more. But here's the deal. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut, overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%, the very wealthy and the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit.
Damn, this dude loves Ukraine.
Debt than
Holy
any
shit.
presidential term in American history. Check the numbers. Folks at home, does anybody really think the tax code is fair? Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion tax break? I sure don't.
Dude, he's really...
I'm going to keep fighting like hell to make it fair. Under my plan, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay additional...
He ain't doing this shit at all. Okay,
nobody,
let's be
not
real.
one penny. And they haven't yet.
He ain't doing this shit at all, my man.
In fact, the child tax credit I passed during the pandemic cut taxes for millions of working families and cut child poverty in half. Restore that child tax credit. No child should go hungry in this country. The way to make the tax code fair is to make big corporations and the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Remember in 2020, 55 of the biggest companies in America made $40 billion and paid zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not anymore. Thanks to the law I wrote and we signed, big companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%. So
he's not looking down, he's spitting out the dome ski. No, he has teleprompters on two sides.
Fair share. I also want to end tax breaks for big pharma, big oil, private jets, massive executive pay when it's only supposed to be $1 million that could be deducted. They can pay them $20 million if they want, but deduct $1 million. End it now. You know, there are 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%. That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal tax rate than a teacher or sanitation worker.
So mad he's shitting on billionaires. No American must see a 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour, Jack. That's why I'm giving tax credits. So they can spend $5 to avoid said ads at the top of the hour.
For billionaires at 25%, just 25%. You know what that would raise? That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years. And imagine what that could do for America. Imagine a future with affordable child care. Millions of families can get they need to go to work to help grow the economy. Imagine
I wish this was real so bad.
Because no one should have to choose between working and taking care of their sick family member.
You can't hit a commercial break during SODU? Yes, I can.
Home care and elder care. And people living with disabilities so they can stay in their homes and family caregivers can finally get the pay they deserve. Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you.
Ewok Bandit, thank you for the 5 get the subs. Allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour.
The working people who built this country pay more into Social Security than millionaires and billionaires do. It's not fair. We have 2 ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear.
He's riffing.
You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealthy. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share. Look, too many corporations raise prices to pad their profits, charging more and more for less and less. That's why we're cracking down on corporations that engage in price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to health care to housing. In fact, the snack companies think you won't notice if they change the size of the bag and put a hell of a lot fewer.
Damn, he's coming after Kanye. He said
put
Kanye's
fewer
wrong.
chips in it.
They made the Twix bars smaller.
It's called shrinkflation. Pass Bobby Casey's bill and stop this. I payment. You probably all saw that commercial on Snickers bars. You get charged the same amount, and you got about, I don't know, 10% fewer Snickers in it.
They took the dick vein out.
Look, I'm also getting rid of junk fees. Those hidden fees at the end of your bill that are there without your knowledge. My administration announced we're cutting credit card late fees from $32 to $8. Banks and credit card companies are allowed to charge what it costs them to instigate the collection. And that's more a hell of a lot like $8 and 30-some dollars. They don't like it. The credit card companies don't like it. But I'm saving American families $20 billion a year with all the junk fees I'm eliminating. Folks at home, that's why the banks are so mad. It's $20 billion in profit. I'm not stopping there. My administration has proposed rules to make cable, travel, utilities, and online ticket sellers tell you the total price up front so there are no surprises. It matters. It matters. And so does this. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
I still hate this, but it's an awful fucking bill.
What are you against?
But the adrenochrome is
100 more
flowing.
high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles smuggling fentanyl into America. That's killing thousands of children. This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know you know how to read. I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win, he viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him, it's not about me. I'd be a winner.
I'm trying to do a screenshot so we can tweet something. They're booing him. He's losing it.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
What the
fuck? To her parents,
fuck?
I say, my heart.
He's a Democratic president.
I understand.
He's saying illegal.
But look, if we change the dynamic at the border, people pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border because they know if they get by and let into the country, it's 6 to 8 years before they have a hearing. And it's worth taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come all that way knowing that they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respectfully suggest my Republican friends owe it to the American people, get this bill done. We need to act now.
Bro, he's about to be like, build the wall.
My predecessor is watching. Instead of paying politics.
Oh, they are saying build the wall.
And pressuring members of Congress to block the bill, join me in telling the Congress to pass it. We can do it together. But that's what he apparently here's what he will not do. I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country.
You said they're illegal to the murder.
Separate families. I will not ban people because of their faith. Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill to fix our immigration system. Take a look at it. It has all these and more. Secure the border. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more. But unlike my predecessor, I know who we are as Americans. We're the only nation in the world with a heart and soul that draws from old and new. Home to Native Americans, whose ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of from every place on earth. They came freely. Some came in chains. Some came when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere, but we're all Americans.
Bro, it's going to be hard to fucking fix that previous statement. Like he brought a button with him to be like an illegal murder this person.
We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border bill now. A transformational moment in history happened 59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him.
He said legals do murders right after was to make an argument. Y'all only complain. Yeah, I heard. I mean, I didn't understand it.
Our other marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the voice of Selma, the daughter of gospel singers and preachers. She sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But 59 years later, there are forces taking us back in time. Voter suppression, election subversion, unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering. John Lewis was a great friend to many of us here. But if you truly want to honor him and all the heroes who marched with him, then it's time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And stop denying another core value of America, our diversity across American life.
Yes,
banning
brother.
books,
Akira Toriyama died.
wrong.
We'll talk about that after.
Instead
Come
of
on.
erasing history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act. And my message to transgender Americans, I have your back. Pass the PRO Act for workers' rights. Raise the federal minimum wage, because every worker has a right to a decent living more than $7 an hour. We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world. I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs, like the IBEW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. And taking action on environmental justice, fence-line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And pattern after the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade. To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then, through my American Rescue Plan, which every American voted against, I might add, we made the largest investment in public safety ever. Last year, the murder rate saw the sharpest decrease in history. Violent crime fell to one of its lowest levels in more than 50 years. But we have more to do. We have to help cities invest in more community police officers, more mental health workers, more community violence intervention. Give communities the tool to crack down on gun crime, retail crime, and carjacking. Keep building trust, as I've been doing by taking executive action on police reform and calling for it to be the law of the land. Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession, because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record. Take on crimes of domestic violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator, so we can finally end the scourge against women in America. There are other kinds of violence I want to stop. With us tonight is Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered with 21 classmates and teachers in an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Very soon after that happened, Jill and I went to Uvalde for a couple of days. We spent hours and hours with each of the families. We heard their message, so everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, and I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something.
AOC packs Zins?
Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House, that the Vice President is leading the charge. Thank you for doing it. Meanwhile,
Marines activation code word going out.
My predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president. Oh. After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
Is he bleeding from one eye? Oh, God. No. That's just...
I'm proud we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Pass universal background checks. None of this. None of this. I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners. You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East.
Oh
I know the last 5 months have been gut-wrenching for so many people, for the Israeli people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know. 1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas. I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also we will also work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world.
That's it?
Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza. This war has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, most of whom are not Hamas. Thousands and thousands of innocents, women and children, girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to establish an immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released, to get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis and build toward an enduring,
who made the humanitarian crisis,
more
you fucking
enduring.
asshole?
The United States has been leading international efforts to get more humanitarian assistance to Gaza. Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
Fuck him, dude. Fuck him.
And Israel must do its part. Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. They're announcing they're going to have a crossing in northern Gaza. For the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time. And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel. My entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here. I'm the only American president of Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. And there's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking. Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I built a coalition of more than a dozen countries to defend international shipping and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region.
Oh, it's so
As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel.
What are you gonna do, bro? Bomb them harder? Nuke Yemen? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you clapping for, you dumb fuck? Jesus Christ.
For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise and America's falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade. And we're standing up against China's unfair economic practices. We're standing up for peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. I've revitalized our partnership and alliance in the Pacific. India, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Pacific Islands. I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used in China, not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here at home, I've signed over 400 bipartisan bills, but there's more to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh? Pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect our children online. Harness the promise of AI to protect us from peril. Ban AI voice impersonations and more. And keep our truly sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. That's why the song Support and Help of Dennis and the VA, I signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H, and remind us that we can do big things, like end cancer as we know it, and we will. Let me close with this. Yay. I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things. I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation, between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, that's not me. I was born amid World War II, when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working-class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm, became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president, or first black president. Now president to the first women vice president. In my career, I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy. My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation.
I'm so fucking checked out since the fucking Palestine talk.
It's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing.
Will he actually attack the ridge? No, of course not, bro. What are you, crazy?
When we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No, he's not going to fucking... He's not going to. Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you quickly about the Palestine thing. He hit the center in his mind, and it's good enough for liberals, and they will literally be like, look how fucking presidential he is. Look how phenomenal he is. High notes. He was very high energy. He outperformed expectations by the widest of margins. He did not die. There were obviously flubs and gaps. I think I counted like 7 or 8 solid ones. Overall, a lot of great domestic policy that he pushed for, a lot of great domestic policy that he promised. Okay, really, really solid. Overall, definitely outperformed expectations. Very solid speech overall. Very energized. Very dynamic. You have to admit that. Okay. Obviously, it's the expectations that we had that play a role in this, but it's important in the way that the American population sees them. He rose to the moment, and he actually delivered. Okay? if I'm a regular normie liberal and I like see bits and pieces of this, the high notes are going to be Republicans being unruly, stupid, and Biden actually doing a phenomenal job, because liberal media will eat this shit up and will go crazy over it. They're going to talk about this like he is the next God King. Jesus Christ is delivered. Biden is back. Biden is dynamic. Biden is out of control. He really showed it. He really stuck it to the man. And he did. In some ways, he did. He really did stick it to the fucking man, as far as like talking about billionaires, talking about this, talking about that, talking about trust busting big landlords. That's a way to try to massage the narrative, of course. But the fact that he's bringing up landlords to begin with in a negative fashion, even while they're simultaneously talking about like big landlords, which, you know, it's whatever the fuck he means by that, who knows. And of course, even though none of the things that he promised he's going to do, he's actually going to end up doing, doesn't matter. Those are all going to play big. Okay? This Joe Biden is a very different Joe Biden than the one that you see all the time. No, it's not just BlackRock that's a problem, but we're not going to get into that. My point is saying, oh, we're going to break up big landlords. You're not going to do that. The tax credit for $100 for home buyers, that sort of stuff, all of that is like great policy, not going to fucking work. Obviously, it's not going to pass. But the fact that they're even lying about it is a good thing. Okay, it's a good thing. That's how low the bar is. That like the Democrats had given up until this moment in even lying about good things that they have done or will do for the American public. It made me lose my mind. It made me fucking want to rip my goddamn hair out. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? So the fact that they're even lying is decent for their prospects, decent for their future prospects, their electoral prospects in general. Bro, you're doing tricks on it. I'm telling you the good. I'm going to get to the bad as well. Just fucking calm down, okay? Before you freak the fuck out. I'm a political commentator. I'm going to give you the political commentary. That's what I'm here to fucking do, okay? Now, having said that, obviously, while he does look relatively dynamic here, it still doesn't matter. He's still very old, okay? One of the things that he definitely lost here is the people that were interested in potentially maybe voting for him, that won't vote for him, that were iffy on him, that is under the age of like 35, okay? He's going to have, in my opinion, historic lows as far as like the under 35 demographic of voters, because the reality is you have to be an ultra Zionist at this point and genuinely dedicated like a Fedayeen to the Democratic Party's cause. You have to be like Harry Sasson or one of those fucking TikTok guys to look at what he had to say about Palestine and go, brilliant, bold, beautiful. Now you're going to hear that a lot on television. Immediately after this speech, everyone's going to go on TV and try to be the first to be like, guys, look at how much of a fucking elderly statesman he is. He's so phenomenal. Okay? Other low notes that I personally despised, okay? The very notion that he picked up the button that he got from Marjorie Taylor Greene, pulled it up, and he said, an illegal killed this person. Done. That is so bad. It's going to play so poorly, okay? I know the point he was trying to make. He didn't deliver it adequately. He tried to say, what about the thousands of legal murders, right? Something along those lines. He was trying to say that. The illegal line will fuck him, okay? We're talking Arizona. We're talking Nevada. We're talking places where he's not doing well, okay? Places that he won last time that he's most likely not going to win this time, okay? You fucking say illegal murders are responsible for this person. Even when you're trying to fucking salvage the situation, it's hard to come back from. You are the Democratic Party's leader. You can't be using the fucking illegal murder line. Like, that's a Republican. That's the most reactionary Republican. Donald Trump says illegal murders. Okay? The fuck do you mean? That's crazy. That's crazy. I know the point he was trying to make, okay, in the most charitable way possible. Pretty sure he was trying to fucking say there are thousands of people, thousands more people killed by natural born U.S. citizens, you do not care about the murder of Americans or something along those lines. Like, it's something that I say all the time. It's just the reality. The reality is that undocumented immigrants are responsible for significantly less murders per capita than natural born U.S. citizens. If he was trying to say that, he boofed it. Okay? He boofed it. He fucked it up. Like, but, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. Even fucking Trump says migrant crime, which is more racist in some ways. Yeah. Maybe everybody knows this, but the word illegal as a reference to illegal immigrants was struck from the Democratic dictionary many years ago. I was shocked to see him go there to make a case for this bill. Straight up. This is what I mean. Democratic rep from Deep Blue majority Latino seat criticizing Biden's language. No human being is illegal. You can't fucking say that. You cannot say that. Okay? Biden picking up the Laken Riley button and going forward. First generally surprising soda moment in quite some time. That was an insane flub. Like an unimaginable flub. That will get a lot of fucking play, by the way. Guess what they'll do? Guess what the Republicans will do? They'll show that. They'll show that moment of him saying, an illegal killed this woman, right? And they'll play that and go, even Biden recognizes that illegal migrant crime is a massive problem. What does that do? That normalizes in the minds of Americans, both reactionary and moderate, that migrants are responsible for murders and crimes at an unimaginably high rate. You can never do that. You can never, ever, ever fucking do that. Okay? He turned around and tried to fix it by continuing along with the whole, continuing along with the narrative and being like, you know, America's a nation of immigrants. Like, it's great. That's all he should have said. He should have never, ever said that. I don't know why you guys are undermining how significant of a point this is. I don't think you guys understand, okay?
Really?
This is very, very important. Before I get to the media coverage of this, before I get to the reception of this, I want to finish my thoughts, okay? Dave Weigel catches crazy hot mic moment from Joey Bananas. Post-speech exchange on C-SPAN. Jerry Nadler, no one's going to call you cognitively impaired now. I kind of wish I sometimes was cognitively impaired. That's awesome. That's funny. Anyway, as a Hispanic Arizona voter, you're completely right. That's a huge shift. It's a huge right-wing shift for the Democratic Party, okay? I'm sorry. If you don't recognize that moment, going back to the whole illegal concept is very significant, okay? Very, very significant. Liberals care about aesthetics. That is a massive aesthetic problem. And ding, ding, ding. Marjorie Taylor Greene just bullied Biden into saying Lincoln Riley was killed by an illegal. 11,000 likes already. And wokeness. I mean, Twitter likes are not really representative of anything, but there you go. I fucking told you. It is already happening. You're out of your fucking mind if you don't think that they will seize on that. Of course they're going to seize on that. When you're the motherfucking president, you cannot make mistakes like that. He's old as fuck and his brain is fucking doo-doo. Okay? You can never do that. Never. Never. Anyway, that's a very massive, very significant flub. It's not even a fucking flub. I think he's just a racist piece of shit. Okay? Now, let's get to Palestine. Okay? A lot of people of color in this country that are diehard, designated Democratic Party voters. They care about this. We're not just talking about Michigan. We're not just talking about Minneapolis. Okay? Very, very important issue for a lot of young voters, black voters, obviously the entirety of the Arab vote, and the entirety of the Muslim vote. The fact that after 30,000 murders have occurred where Israel has killed 25,000 plus women and children. The fact that after all of that, for the past 5 fucking months, Biden still opens up with Hamas, October 7, and relitigating the same exact shit over and over and over again. as though that is the most significant violence that occurred. I'm sorry, the numbers don't fucking add up. He also relitigated the sexual violence, the mass sexual violence, okay? Making, just reaffirming the New York Times reporting October 7, screams without words. This is something that he already had done. He did the 40 babies that were decapitated lie. He did that. He literally personally said that he doesn't trust the Hamas-backed health ministry numbers. Like, so many instances where he has, like, as the president, done things that no president is supposed to do, like things that even Trump would do, just things that you would expect only Trump to do. Okay? Him saying he's a Zionist is fine. He's going to say that. We already know that anyway. His actions speak louder than fucking words. What he should be using is his bona fides as a Zionist to say enough is enough, cut it out. That is what the actual reasonable, centered, grounded approach would be in this. Make no mistake. You need to understand something here. I was expecting him to at least say something along the lines of, I'm a Zionist. My whole life I've been a Zionist. I was born before the state of Israel was even a thing, and I've been a fucking supporter of the state of Israel in perpetuity. That much is clear. And even I see what is going on the ground in Gaza, and I cannot look away. We have to put a stop to this. Enough is enough. That's something along those lines, okay? Saying something like Israel has a right to defend itself, but this has gone too far and the entire world can see it. Something along those lines. He should have said that. That would have still reaffirmed his commitment to Israel, okay? Without coming across like a fucking psychotic, bloodthirsty goddamn monster. See, but liberals already picked up on it, and liberals are already running defense saying he said 30,000 innocents were killed. He didn't say that. He said many of them, or some of them, are women and children, something along those lines. I hope you understand. There's going to be a lot of fucking people in the right-wing side that even go after him for saying what he said so far. Liberals, on the other hand, are going to run defense for him and make it seem like he actually hit a very centrist line and that he is an elderly statesman who does care. Yeah, he said, and Rami Mardini is 100% correct. This is very important. Pay attention. He said 1,200 innocent Israelis were killed, but he said 30,000 were mostly not Hamas. Okay? Those words are important. That is nowhere near enough. 25,000 women and children. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Get the fuck out of here. He also said that he prefaced it by claiming that Israel, one, has a right to defend itself, which, by the way, legally it does not. As a belligerent occupier, Israel does not have a right to fucking blow Gaza into smithereens. Just make no mistake on that front. I hope that everybody fucking understands my position here. Israel does not have a right to defend itself by blowing up Gaza. That is illegal. He not only said that, but also said Israel has to do it because Hamas is using human shields. That is a way to basically manufacture the narrative or reaffirm the narrative that Israel is simply, one, engaging in defensive posture, which it has a legal right to do, even though that's false, it does not. And two, is doing it only because Hamas is using human shields. That is a direct bar for bar Zionist line, okay? It's ridiculous. It's especially ridiculous right now at this stage when 77%, he was trying to appeal to Republicans, moron. Shut the fuck up. 54% of Republicans want a ceasefire. 77% of Americans want a ceasefire. He is not appealing to anyone, unless you're talking about people in Israel, unless you're talking about Republicans inside of the borders of Israel proper. He is not appealing to the Americans by saying this. Shut the fuck up. That is ridiculous. Majority of Republicans support a ceasefire at this point. Why do you think we got here? How do you think we got here? The death and destruction is unimaginable. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. I know that the older you get in the demographics that do vote, the less you give a shit, the more you can look away, right? Just because a lot of people want a ceasefire doesn't mean that that's going to be the single issue that they vote for. But a lot of young voters, which Biden desperately needs to win this fucking election, are not going to look away. I agree with the ceasefire, but I think it's trying not to make the kidnapping civilians. Will get what you want. I get that Israel did it first, but the media, it was Hamas. Doesn't matter. I told you what he could have done here. Like, think about the certainty of the terms he uses when talking about Russia and Ukraine. Come on, guys. My expectation isn't that he talk about Israel like he talks about Russia, but at least manage it a little bit. If that's the most fucking centrist position he can arrive at on Israel, we're fucking cooked. He genuinely doesn't understand the interest on the ground for this. And every time he comes out and makes statements like this, more people are going to get mad. It's crazy. Very, very bad. Very, very, very bad take. Okay? I do think overall it's entirely in the hands of the media and how they cover it now. If they cover this by glancing over the Israel-Palestine stuff, which they probably won't because it is a pretty big fucking deal, right? And the media does care about ratings and what people care about to a certain degree, especially if there's enough stink on it, okay? They will bring this up. Right-wingers will say Biden is an enemy to the state of Israel. He's an anti-Semite. Liberal media overall will defend him and say he's doing a phenomenal job. Look at how wonderful he is. He is so dynamic. He is a dynamo. He is unstoppable. We'll get to the media coverage right now, and we'll find out what they're saying. But that is my suspicion. Okay? Here's some funny moments. Donald Trump looking kind of weak on the sidelines, live tweeting, I'll be honest. Looking kind of like a catty bitch. See, as he's getting ready to cough yet again into his right hand, the fake news media rushes him off the screen. Don't shake people's hands going out. He keeps coughing into his right hand. The illegal statement and his relatively shitty statement on Palestine is not great. As far as like all the progressive policies that he pushes
and the
for,
fact that
the progressive policies that he pushed for, phenomenal. He's always going to do that. He finally fucking woke up a little bit. Okay? Anyway, let's see what the MSNBC
tells you that this is bothering him. He's mad at the Supreme Court. That was not written into the speech. He saw them in front of him and he said, with all due respect, justices, because he is mad about what they've been doing. That is not the Joe Biden who was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee not that long ago. So that was a very striking moment.
Okay, dog, that was like 30 years ago. What the fuck do you mean not that long
ago? On
how
he talks about abortion, this is an important thing to remember. I mean, after Roe, a lot of the women's rights groups and pro-choice groups were upset that he wasn't being as vocal. He kind of was a little bit awkward in how he talked about it. He has a pro-choice record, but he is somebody who is very Catholic, not super comfortable talking about it. Others in the administration were talking about it. He really made some strides. I mean, he had a pretty bold message here on abortion rights and abortion access and all of the issues around it, which I think is striking. And if you look back at his language 2 years ago, it was not as bold as this.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, it's really striking when you look at those first four issues he starts with. Out of the gate, these are 60-40, 70-30 issues, right? Like, Putin, good or bad? Is Putin good?
Bottom line is that there's nothing that he could have said on Israel-Palestine that's in character that you would have liked. Yeah, of course, because he's a fucking ultra-Zionist and a bloodthirsty genocidaire. Of course I don't like that. What the fuck's wrong with you? You think you're making a good point here? Yeah, duh. Hello. I literally believe and know and am correct on this belief that Israel is a genocidal apartheid state that is currently engaging in ethnic fucking cleansing. Even Brandon kind of recognized that when he said 2 million Palestinians are being ethnically displaced. Hassan, if Israel wasn't killing Palestinians, you would have let the illegals line slide. Admit it is also a ridiculous fucking take because you're unfamiliar with my you know, with my commentary, it seems I've been talking about immigration far before Joe Biden was president. I've been talking about it since he was vice president, as a matter of fact, criticizing both the Obama administration, certainly the Trump administration, and also the Biden administration. No, I would not have let the illegal line slide, dummy. Oh. Anyway, I don't want to fucking hear the Pisaki bomb. I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. I need to. We found out that AOC is a Zinner, so that's cool. Okay, we saw all of that. Cerveza Cristal. Okay, let's hear what else they're saying right now.
We're all worried about the future of our nation.
Okay, I don't care about this. GOP, like whoever does the presidential counter is always a fucking loser, okay? The presidential counter, not gonna lie, you've been a lot of shit slid, really showing your true colors. If this has got to be a top of the hour ad break debate. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I was right. Yes, I haven't been letting the top of the hour ad break debate slide. Don't worry. Okay? Don't worry. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. I ain't letting that shit slide. You don't need to either, as long as you subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Yeah. Oh, Elent News. 100% correct. Where is it? I just saw your name in the chat. Another line that he fucking dropped in there that I think is gross is I hated the focus on militants under hospitals and daycare centers also. Fucking ridiculous, dude. Why are you running cover for Israel at the State of the Union? Why are you running cover why are you contextualizing Israel's genocidal actions at the State of the Union address? Are you out of your fucking mind? Are you out of your goddamn mind? It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. It's morally reprehensible, but it's also completely fucking insane, chat. Come on. You're the American president. You're literally building this conversation up to talk about the ethnic displacement and the disastrous circumstances that Israel has created in Gaza. You really need to fucking contextualize some of that disaster? That's fucking bullshit. You're doing it to run cover. You're doing it because you look unserious. Anyway. I did not like that. I didn't like that at all. Anyway. In the State of the Union address, nobody's more Zionist than me. I fucking dare you to say, I dare you, Biden blast. Anyway, so yeah, really, really right-wing takes on Israel and really right-wing takes on Gaza, on the border situation is really fucked up. Anyway, but will he actually implement those progressive policies? No, dude, but at least he's fucking lying. Here, let's watch this loser.
Inherited the most secure border of all time. But minutes after taking office,
they always let the loser do this, by the way, like including Bernie Sanders.
Halted construction of the border wall.
The counter is always done by some fucking no-name loser nobody.
Amnesty to millions. We know that President Biden didn't just create this border crisis. He invited it with 94 executive actions in his first 100 days. When I took office, I took a different approach. I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas. That's where I spoke to a woman who shared her story with me.
Well, who the fuck is this? What is this? It's a lightsaber dude ass motherfucker over here. It's a lightsaber dude. How'd they find the most liberal woman in Alabama to fucking run this, to do this? Goddamn.
She was raped. The cartels put her on a mattress in a shoebox of a room, and they sent men through that door over and over again.
Bro, she literally looks like she's Why is she talking like she's in a Geico commercial? What the fuck's going on?
We wouldn't be okay with this happening in a third world country. This is the United States of America, and it is past time, in my opinion, that we start acting like it. President Biden's border policies are a disgrace. This crisis is despicable. And the truth is, it is almost entirely preventable. From fentanyl poisonings to horrific murders, there are empty chairs tonight at kitchen tables just like this one because of President Biden's senseless border policies. Just think about Laken Riley. In my neighboring state of Georgia, this beautiful 22-year-old nursing student went out on a jog one morning, but she never got the opportunity to return home. She was brutally murdered by one of the millions of illegal border crossers President Biden chose to release into our homeland. Y'all, as
Bro,
a
this
mom,
is wild. Why does she sound like she's nutting? Like, am I crazy? She's like, what the fuck? What is the voice quiver happening here?
President Biden finally said her name, but he refused to take responsibility for his own actions.
This is the most CW ass acting I've ever seen in my life. It's so weird,
Yes.
dude.
Innocent Americans
She's about to bust it
are dying,
wide open with
and
the
you reverse your policies, end this crisis, and stop the suffering.
God damn, dude.
Sadly, we know that President Biden's failures don't stop there. His reckless spending dug our economy into a hole and sent the cost of living through the roof. We have the worst inflation in 40 years and the highest credit card debt in our nation's history. Let that sink in.
Let that sink
Hardworking
in.
families
Oh
are
my
struggling to
God.
make ends meet today.
Bro, she is so elder millennial liberal coded. I'm losing it. Like, if it wasn't for the cross, just listen to the speech and mannerisms and the words she's using. Everyone's a goddamn liberal. Everyone's
The
a liberal.
American people are scraping by, while President Biden proudly proclaims that Bidenomics is working. Goodness, y'all, bless his heart, we know better. I'll never forget stopping at a gas station in Chilton County one evening. The gentleman working the counter told me that after retiring, he had to pick up a job in his 70s so that he didn't have to choose between going hungry or going without his medication. He said, I did everything right. I did everything I was told to do. I worked hard, I saved, I was responsible. He's not alone. I hear similar concerns from fellow parents, whether I am walking with my friends or whether I'm at my kids' games. But let's be honest, it's been a minute.
Republicans are far too sexist for this to play well. They need like a butch ass woman, like what's his face from the Ugly Family, the one that was in like the Trump administration, who's now like a governor or some shit. The fuck's her name? They this is too bad. It's just like too. It is way too fake already. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, yeah, more like Sarah Fuckabee Sanders, because Donald Trump asked Sarah to fuck Kim Jong-un. That's real. Look it up. Literally. Donald Trump. God. That's not even, I wish I was joking. Donald Trump once famously said to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, "You got to take one for the team." He said that. Anyway, but yeah, this is very rehearsed. It comes across super disingenuous. Yep. Donald Trump told Sarah Sanders to take one for the team after Kim Jong-un wink. Take one for the team. Okay. This Katie Britt speech is so weird. Yeah. It is giving fucking bossing say shit lines. But anyway, they always, I mean, Sarah did this before.
Y'all, you can't make this stuff up.
Y'all.
Look, we all recall when presidents faced national security threats with strength and resolve. That seems like ancient history. Right now, our commander-in-chief is not in command. The free world deserves better than a dithering.
Shut the fuck up. They're doing hot mics on C-SPAN. Sorry, this is more important than this dumbass. By the way, this is a classic Biden. For those of you who are unfamiliar, this is a classic Biden. He always stays until he's shook every last hand in the room. Okay? He always does this. Look, see how the room is cleared out before him? That's on purpose.
Well, for the first time in memory, the president outlasted the House session.
Yep. There you go. He always waits and shakes and talks to every single person in there. That is both symbolic in this situation to be like, look how much of a dynamo I am. But also it's something that Biden does always.
Choice our children deserve. And I know the choice the Republican Party is fighting for. We are the party of hard-working parents and families. And we want to give you and your children the opportunities to thrive. And we want families to grow. It's why we strongly support continued nationwide access to in vitro fertilization. We want to help loving moms and dads bring precious life into this world. Wesley and I believe there is no greater blessing in life than our children. And that's why tonight, I want to make a direct appeal to the parents out there, and in particular to my fellow moms, many of whom I know will be up tossing and turning at 2 a.m., wondering how you're going to be in 3 places at once and then somehow still get dinner on the table. First of all, we see you, we hear you, and we stand with you. I know you're frustrated. I know you're probably disgusted by most of what you see going on in Washington, and I'll be really honest with you, you're not wrong for feeling that way. Look, I get it.
Biden on a hot mic. Wait, what? Biden was about to dish about Bibi on the floor, but an aide stepped in and reminded him he had a hot mic. This was right after he was encouraged to keep pushing on the humanitarian stuff. Oh. I genuinely don't understand why she's doing this. Why is she like this? The fuck's wrong with her? Anyway, very strange stuff overall coming from the Republican Party. Very dark energies. Very, very dark vibes and very dark energies.
We are steeped in the blood of patriots who overthrew the most powerful empire in the world. We walk in the footsteps of pioneers who
She's also talking with that fucking smile. She's smile
We
talking.
now carry forward the same flame of freedom as the liberators of an oppressed Europe. We continue to draw courage from those who bent the moral arc of the universe. And when we gaze upon the heavens, never forget that our DNA contains the same ingenuity that put man on the moon. America has been tested before, and every single time we've emerged unbowed and unbroken. Our history has been written with the grit of men and women who got knocked down. But
Hold
we
on.
know their stories.
I'm turning on the Geiger counter, the Hitlerian Geiger counter.
We are here because they stood back up. So now it's our turn. Our moment to stand up and prove ourselves
Oh my God, it's going up.
worthy of protecting the American dream. Together, we
Röntgen.
can reawaken the heroic spirit of a great nation. Because America, we don't just have a rendezvous with destiny. We take destiny's hand and we lead it. Our future starts around kitchen tables, just like
The Hitler particle is breaking.
With moms and dads.
It broke. It broke the machine.
Like you.
It broke the machine.
And you are why I believe with every fiber of my being that despite the current state of our union, our best days are still ahead. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless these United States of America.
That was Alabama Senator Katie Britt delivering the Republican response to President Biden's State of the Union address while he was still in the chamber. Senator Britt criticized him, saying that she and many others are worried about the future of America. She especially blasted his handling of the border and painted this moment as a crossroads for America.
I'm talking about the split screen. There's a reason, of course, that she's considered one of the rising stars in the Senate and in Alabama politics. Alabama, obviously, at the center of this IVF controversy after that Alabama Supreme Court ruling that threw into question whether or not people could have IVF and shut down clinics in that state, something that the state legislature is trying to rectify. I want to turn to Hallie Jackson. When you talk about the split screen, she's 42 years old.
Literally almost half of the president's age.
She's sitting in a kitchen saying, I'm a mom, talking about kitchen table issues. This is what the Republicans are hoping to get across tonight.
The big push, relatability from her, and trying to match President Biden's optimism there. You heard, in most part, an optimistic tone. She did, of course, turn on immigration and cast it as a dark moment for America, which is something that Republicans have been going after the president for months now. You heard the president in his speech try to flip the script, pointing to what Congress could do in order to make the border more secure, and has not so far. This is going to continue to be a theme into November. And it's really important, I think, to also talk about part of why she was chosen, because she represents the state of Alabama, Savannah, and that court ruling that you just mentioned, immediate backlash to that. IVF enjoys broad support from across the political spectrum. It is not a Republican issue. It is not a Democrat issue. And you heard her mention the need to push for continued access to IVF. Notable that when President Biden mentioned it at the Capitol tonight in his State of the Union speech, it's the first time that the words IVF have ever been said in a State of the Union. It's a real sign of the times, and it's a sign of the issues that Democrats are continuing to push forward.
You really get a sense tonight that we've seen the vision of two Americas, really. You're talking about the same thing, but with just striking different visions of what this country looks like.
Yeah, and that's the next 8 months of our lives, because this is, as we've been talking about, the beginning of the general election here, with Donald Trump as a presumptive Republican nominee, President Biden looking to win back the White House here, and two very different takes on what the next 4 years could look like.
All right, Hallie Jackson, thank you so much to our entire team watching the State of the Union tonight.
All right, let's hear what they had to say.
A very fiery Biden speech and forceful delivery that he had, where he addressed issues like the border and crime, which she mentioned there. I think that's going to be the big question of whether Republicans feel that she met the moment. I'll tell you, I talked to multiple Republicans on the Hill today who are looking forward to this. And obviously, also, I should note, it's always a thankless task to deliver.
It is indeed a thankless task, and also very difficult to give a speech basically by yourself in your kitchen. Much easier for politicians to do it in a room where they can play off the crowd. Anderson?
Jake, thanks very much. Here with the panel in New York. Alyssa, what do you think?
So listen, Katie Britt, a rising star, no doubt among Republicans. I think it was a smart choice. She's somebody who's an incredibly impressive person. She ran a smart race in Alabama, but I've got to say, the staging of this was bizarre to me. Women can be both wives and mothers and also stateswomen. So to put her in a kitchen, not in...
Yeah, that's deliberate.
Or in the Senate chamber where she was elected after running a hard-fought race, I think fell very flat and was confusing to some women watching it. I think that was a missed opportunity. I think
her focus
You don't
on
think so?
the border, on the economy.
Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more
Oh, yeah, I
security
forgot. They're going to talk about how bipartisan the bill
more
is.
immigration judges to help tackle the backlog of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum.
I think the guy that got escorted out was talking about fucking the 13 Marines in Afghanistan.
Great speech. I was telling the secretary, I was in Jordan and Israel this weekend, and we just, got to keep pushing what you're doing. I'm a humanitarian.
Said you got to keep pushing for humanitarian aid in Israel.
Humanitarian stuff and all this shit. So
I told Bibi, I'm repeat this. I said, Bibi, you know I should come to Jesus.
Sir, just
He said, I told Bibi, and don't repeat this, but you and I are going to have a come to Jesus meeting. I think a come to Jesus moment. And then the staffer goes, yo, stop. Look at this shit. He said, sir, you're on a hot mic.
Hot mic, good. That was good.
All right, let's hear what they have to say.
Conservatives asked for. One of the Democrats who was a prime
Joanne. Come on,
negotiator
Joanne, read in the morning.
Democrat
Come
of
on.
Connecticut. He's a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, and he joins us now.
No,
Senator
not
Murphy,
this
we know
piece
you
of
were there.
shit. No!
Responding to President Biden's speech tonight. What's your reaction to how things went?
No!
The president laid it out there on the question of the border. The fact of the matter is we did come to a bipartisan agreement negotiated by a very conservative Republican senator, James Lankford, that would have been the toughest set of measures on the border in generations. And the secret is out. Republicans voted against it because Donald Trump told them to. Why? Because Donald Trump wants chaos at the border. So I like Katie Britt a lot, but you didn't hear her say in her speech one thing about what Republicans are for, because many of the ideas that Republicans actually think would work, like putting more Border Patrol officers on the border, like giving the president the power to shut down the border.
Dude,
when
I hate this
crossings get
party.
too high.
I hate this party. Fuck this party. Fuck this party. Fuck this party. Fuck the Democratic Party. Seriously, fuck you, dude. I knew as soon as this piece of shit was on camera, I knew it was going to be like, yeah, we want to kill Mexicans ourselves. Why won't the Republicans let us kill the Mexicans?
His biggest applause lines of the night. He said, look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I am ready to fix it. Send me the border bill now. Senator, there was one other moment when the president was talking about this issue and this bill that you worked on, where he was addressing Republican criticism, not just around this issue, but Republicans criticizing, yelling out, sort of heckling in the room. I want to get your response to this moment.
The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know you know how to read.
There is both style and substance there to comment in terms of the president anticipating and seeming to be enjoying some of the criticism, even some of the catcalling from Republicans in the room. At least that's how it appeared through the mediation of the cameras. What was it like in the room?
Well, it was actually pretty amazing in the room because the president comes out and just knocks.
The person on the top of your ticket doesn't solve problems. He creates chaos. He tells people not to do their job, and that is what happened on that immigration bill. And the president, Joe Biden, is allowed to call it out.
So President Biden created the crisis, only went to the border because Governor Abbott gave some immigrants options to go to Democratic cities and elevate this issue to be a national issue. And now at the last minute,
bro, this is Fox News.
For the fourth quarter, right before the end of the game.
I'm watching Fox News.
There's a bill on the table.
You can't
There's a bill on the table.
It's crazy that the left opinion on this panel is literally advocating for a fucking more strict border control bill that has $22 billion for border security.
There is a problem there, and there's been a problem there for a while. It has gotten worse.
everybody's got a number that's too many.
They're having a no, I hate immigrants more off right now on the fucking panel.
Answer, and I'm glad that Biden called you out on it. Let's go back to Jake in D.C. Jake.
Kristen, we are joined now by a very special guest who was in the House chamber for tonight's State of the Union address. Speaker Emerita and Democratic Congresswoman from California, Nancy Pelosi. Speaker Pelosi, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. So I have to say, this may have been the highest stakes speech of President Biden's long career in politics. It may have been the highest stakes State of the Union address that I've ever seen. Do you think he met the moment?
Oh, I think he did, definitely. Actually, I should quote him and just say maybe I should go home right now because I think what he did was spectacular. He did it with vigor, he did it with vision, with patriotism, and I think it was one of the finest State of the Union addresses I have seen, and I've seen many.
So obviously a lot of Republicans are critical of it. One of the things that they're criticizing it for is for being political, and it was a very political State of the Union address.
Well, it had some political aspects to it.
They're saying he did it with vigor, he's dynamic.
But perhaps amnesia has set in on the disgraceful speech that Donald Trump gave to the chamber.
The one you ripped up?
Well, there were so many disgraceful ones. I'm getting them, but this is the one where he gave a presidential medal to somebody who was...
Rush Limbaugh?
Yeah, all that stuff. And all he talked about was the election and the rest. And as Speaker, I was offended because it is not a political rally. And by the way...
Someone asked me why I don't like Chris Murphy, because he's a fucking neocon hawk, but a Democrat. That's why I don't like him.
What's important to America's working families instead of
giant piece of shit.
So he did mention you by name, President Biden.
Did?
Yeah. Can we roll that little clip?
What's that? You think I would
The
have...
very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy.
You didn't hear it that time? He said, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, Nancy. You didn't catch that the first time? I guess there's a lot of noise going on.
A lot of noise, yeah.
Why do you think he said that to you? Do you disagree with him privately about his optimism?
No. I think he was saying, I hope you agree that I delivered the message tonight. This is, you said it's high stakes. One of the reasons it's high stakes is because the opposition, the person that he's running against, is such a low form. I always say he's doing a limbo contest with himself to see how low he can go. So that's really important for the Democratic candidate who is the incumbent to be presidential, to show a path.
Oh my God, she's throwing it back.
While I missed
for the
Nancy part,
Brandusi.
I did love what he said at the end about two paths. You have a path that takes us to the past, narrowing our freedom. In the history of our country, we have always expanded freedom. From a constitution, which, thank God, our founders made it amendable, ending slavery, expanding the right to vote, black men, women, as time goes by, Roe v. Wade and the rest, until this court narrowed freedom with the Dobbs decision, and threatening to say, because privacy is not guaranteed in the Constitution and we are ignoring precedent of the court, everything else is at stake, whether it's marriage equality or whatever else. So this was a path to go back or a path to go to the future. And I think that he very clearly laid out a vision for the future based on values and really centered around America's working families, which has always been his commitment. And quite frankly, I think tonight was a clear definition between the Democrats and the Republicans as what we stand for. And he has faced down big money in guns and won, big money in pharma and won, big money in fossil fuel industry and won with legislation in the Congress and a path with more to come, making wealthy people pay their fair share.
Dana?
Madam Speaker, one of the clearly ad-libbed moments was during the section about immigration. And I'm sure you saw the buttons that your colleagues across the aisle had.
And he had one of those buttons. We believe it was given to him by Marjorie Taylor Greene. And when she said something to him during his speech, he responded. I think we have that. Let's listen to it.
I didn't see any Republican buttons.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but that's not a big thing, okay? What's the big thing about
no,
it?
no, I actually wasn't even going to ask about that. I was just going to ask more about the moment. But you do think that he should have said undocumented? That wasn't going to be my question.
Well, we usually say undocumented. He said illegal. I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
I don't think it's a big deal.
But
it
more
is a big
broadly,
fucking deal, asshole. That's why you're panicking.
Was on the sympathy for the family.
Yeah.
It's a terrible tragedy.
That was going to be the basis of my question about it, which is, as you well know, maybe you didn't know about the buttons. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of news about this young woman who was a student at the University of Georgia, and she died, and apparently was an undocumented immigrant. And the fact that he was ready with that, with the button, with the response. What do you make of that when it comes to not just the substance, but also the performance?
Well, I think that it was, if that's spontaneous. See, I don't know about the buttons, and you're telling me that they had buttons.
Go ahead. Go say on the record he popped off there, dumbass.
Schmoozing with the Republicans before. Usually we do, and we had some conversations, but none of the ones that came over to converse with us had those buttons on, so I didn't see the buttons. So we want to make a thing of the button. The president, I think, handled it very well.
Yeah, and I think
he handled
so
it very well.
hard.
It's a terrible situation. Anybody losing a child.
He's panicking so hard. They didn't even ask him that hard of a question.
But I think he handled it well.
And you well know that one of the questions that people were looking at, they were wanting to see how he performed when it comes to his age.
Yeah, I think he handled that well too.
Do you think he put it to rest, at least for a short time?
Well, I thought he showed great vigor in the speech, sustained a level of strength in his speech for a long time, which would be hard for anyone at any age.
I told you.
To give that.
I told you, you're gonna be like, he's so dynamic.
And
great vigor.
I think that his enthusiasm for all of it was demonstrated. He's old. He said it. You know, I've been around, but I have wisdom. And I think it's important for him to embrace his age, says one who is older than the president myself. With age comes wisdom, judgment, knowledge. And this president, when he was speaking, I was thinking, at last people are seeing the way we see him, which is when you go in there, you don't have to speak short, a longhand to him on subjects. He's informed. He's knowledgeable. He's been around. He knows the territory. He has a great vision for the country. He has great knowledge of the issues. He has great judgment, therefore, because he has knowledge, and he thinks in a strategic way about how to get things done. And his record as a president, when we had the majority, was equal, well, on a par with Lyndon Johnson and compared to Franklin Roosevelt for a 2-year period of their term in office. So I think that his kind of making some humor about his age was okay. I thought he was great. What are you going to do? You can't make yourself younger, but you have to show what you bring to the table at whatever your age is. And I think that it was important for him to embrace it.
Madam Speaker,
you can't erase it.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for being here. We really
It's my
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Thank you for your insights. Aaron?
But I just want to say,
What?
one of the best
it's so interesting.
speeches ever.
One of the best speeches ever. Okay, Aaron, to you.
Jake, you know, it's interesting hearing the former speaker there talk about how this would have been a hard speech for anyone to deliver. And I'm going to admit, right when he started, you know, they send you the full speech. So print it out.
See, because of the low expectations set, they're like, he's doing gangbusters. He did phenomenal. Bro, they asked her the lightest, the gentlest question about him using the word illegals. And she's like, the button. Hyper focus on the fucking button. I didn't see the button. Where's the button? What happened with the button? It's like, no, dumbass. They're asking about the usage of the term illegal.
Really, it was about demonstrating to Americans that from the moment he walks into that room, that he's got the energy to stay through to the end. And, you know, by the end, he's still schmoozing afterwards. That's very important because that's what people wanted to see. And exclamation points. You know, he also puts tick marks next to the words where he needs to take.
Told you.
Doing this ever since he started giving speeches 50 years ago.
And did you hear that? Now that you knew
It's
that.
it's part of his practice. It's part of the reason, it's, as Kate knows better than I do, it's part of the reason why he starts early and needs to rehearse, because he knows he's got to, this stutter never goes away. It's been a part of his life forever.
Yep.
And he mastered it at an early age, but it comes back. And so when you hear him trip up in a speech like that, this is something that he's dealt with for, all of his life.
And even in it, with all the clear, the short sentences and the plethora of exclamation points where he wanted to put emphasis, there was a lot of ad-libbing. And we started noticing, you started noticing that early.
Yes.
Just play a couple for anybody who's just joining us now, a couple of examples of when that happened.
Republicans
did I
can cut Social
misunderstand that?
Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy.
Yeah. All the flubs are actually stutters. Oh, I misunderstood. No, Hassan, you saw that wrong. She was not going to ask about the word, and Nancy panicked and talked about the word. The host tried to change the combo to the button. Why is the illegal thing that big a deal? It's not like anyone cares about migrants. Yes, liberals do care about one thing, though. They don't give a fuck about migrants. But you know what they care about? Civility and aesthetics. And that was a big fucking deal because he fucked up and gave the goddamn game away. If you give the game away, then what's the difference between you and fucking Donald Trump? Bro, Donald Trump calls it migrant crime, which in some ways is worse because he's saying like all migrants are responsible for this crime, right? Even he uses illegal too, obviously, but even he's calling it fucking migrant crime. He's over here being like illegals. That's unacceptable.
So trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933. Also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent them are going to buy America. So trade rules.
Oh my God, I can hear him breathing in bed.
Legislation through, he knows them enough to give them the business by name. And it's actually effective. And the last thing I'll say is if you had only heard about Joe Biden, I think it's something, you said it earlier, Chris, if you only knew about Joe Biden, what Fox says about him and what Newsmax says about him, and you think that he's practically dead, he's so old and doddering, and this was the first time you'd ever seen him, you would have no idea how they could possibly think that about Joe Biden. And the only other person I could say that about politically is Barack Obama, who they represented as this madman, who hates white people, and they tried to make him sound like this insane person. And then when he would do his State of the Union and do his thing, talk like this. Yes. And he seemed normal. They were like, oh, that's Barack Obama. Okay.
Joe Biden's a radical progressive who in the first 2 minutes referenced.
Yeah, that's why conservatives famously love Barack Obama. Because they saw him deliver State of the Union speeches and were like, you know what? I hate that black Muslim Kenyan man, but now that I saw he sure can deliver a fiery speech, I've decided he's no longer black, nor Kenyan, nor Muslim. That's what they said. No, Kaya, no, don't do this to me right now. Oh my God, she's shoving the toy. Oh, stop.
Supreme Court at one point when he was really sharply criticizing the decision in Dobbs that, of course, overturned Roe v. Wade. What was that like? What was the reaction to Democrats as that was happening?
This is my first time being at a State of the Union Live. It was pretty electric. I have to say I was sitting with Amanda Zarowski. And when the president looked at the Supreme Court and delivered those lines, it was exactly what we needed to hear, what women in America needed to hear. That is the fighting Joe Biden we need back in this race. And it felt powerful. It felt empowering. It's exactly the right tone and the right way to start swinging out the gate, for our fundamental freedoms. I think that's the big, big win tonight for us with Joe Biden. I mean, when he is empathetic and when he is passionate about an issue like he was.
Biden did good. Biden did great in comparison to the expectations of him. He also did horrible fucking Biden shit. But yeah, no, I think he performed at like an 8 out of 10. For America, it was an 8 out of 10. For me, obviously, I despise him for the constant push, to try and push a right-wing immigration bill.
Administrator Regan as well.
Jacked up Joe, not his normal self tonight. Oh, that's so funny. They're coping. See, that's how you know. Hey, listen, that's how you fucking know Biden did well. Okay? That's how you know. Because they immediately dropped the he's old, he's dying, and started crying about how mean he is. Which is great. Like, from the framework of like electoral politics, that's great. Have the Republicans cry about how mean he is. It's awesome. Maybe shows how far to the right our politics have shifted, or how hollow his progressive overtures were, that Biden launched his campaign site in Charlottesville and now holds up a gift from Marjorie Taylor Greene, a featured speaker at a white supremacist conference, while saying an illegal. Thank you. Thank you for being sane. There are people out there who are still sane. There are people in the media who are still actually sane. I am not insane. Other people see it too. Oh my God. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind when I have liberals coming in and being like, no, them illegals need to go. And I'm like, bro, what are you saying? No, vote Joe Biden. Them illegals need to get killed. Don't care, still voting jank. Don't play me like this. Yep, I think most people see this shit, maybe can't articulate it, but it's obvious. No, I feel like I'm going insane because, unfortunately, I'm surrounded by people who are hyper interested in politics at a time when no one really is, even if it's an election cycle. Like, I asked my normie friends, I was like, so what'd you guys think of the speech? One of them said, what speech? I was playing Helldivers. Okay? These are people who would normally be locked in to a certain degree. And I like tapping into like normies and asking them how they feel about this kind of stuff, because they don't care. Like, they don't, just most people don't care. So the people that do care, the people that do pay a lot of attention to the ongoings of politics like this at a time when most people don't, those are the people who are usually like very pro-Democratic Party unconditionally, don't really care about the politics. Obviously, there are a lot of people who do care about the politics and the policies and themselves. Many of you in this community do care about the actual actionable legislative agenda items rather than just simply like posturing. And the problem is, those who do simply care about defending the Democratic Party will just repeat and channel whatever framing that the Democratic Party presents them, because they're looking at it from the perspective of team sports. That's why they will come in here and be like, oh, well, Trump's going to fucking win if you don't. Trump's going to win if you don't vote for Biden and his like insane immigration bill and insane immigration agenda. And that sometimes makes me feel like I'm going crazy, like watching him go further and further right and have all these people fucking defend it in the media, and those who watch the media religiously and repeat the takes that they hear from the media because they just want to like win an argument about how about how the Democrats must win unconditionally. I have normie friends who made the 2020 elections their personality at the time, not give a shit about elections now. Yeah, 100%. But when I hear that, I feel like I'm going crazy.
Very early on, my predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th, whereupon Mike Johnson turns to stone.
I thought it was one of the strongest
It was one of his claps. If you go back to that, you're going to see his hands doing this. Really? At the very end where he said, you can't love your country only when you win. Yeah. And that got this. And I'm not sure he knew he was doing it. That's what I'd really like to know.
Because he was one of the architects of trying to overturn the election, which is, I guess, the principal architect on the floor.
Exactly.
But I thought it was one of Biden's strongest moments because, again, this was his willingness to take it to the people in the audience. He's hitting the audience and saying, some of you were not willing to admit the truth.
It was one of the earliest signs that he was like, I am here to bother you about some of the things you need to be bothered about.
Yeah, they're lapping it up. They love this shit, dude. They're like, he was so goated. He was so goated on the sauce. He had white boy swag.
Are viewers reacting to the speech?
Yeah, Anderson, I should just remind everyone, this is a poll of speech watchers. So it's not a poll that is representative of the electorate overall, the way people are used to watching polls. In fact, in this sample of speech watchers, which is normal, it's a little more democratic than the public is at large, because we find this when a Democrat is president, more Democrats tend to overrepresent and tune into the speech. Same thing happens on the Republican side when a Republican is president. Our makeup here is about 37% Democratic, 30% Republican, 33% independent. So about 8 points more Democrat than the country is as a whole. With that in mind, take a look at these results here. Reaction to Biden's speech among those watching it tonight, 35% said they had a very positive reaction, 29% somewhat positive reaction. That's 64% there total. And 35% had a negative reaction. Take a look at that very positive number. How does that compare with Biden's speeches to joint sessions of Congress past here? Well, you can see 35% this year, 34% in 2023, 41% in 2022, and 51% in 2021. His poll numbers go down here with reviews of his speech, kind of like they have overall with his job approval ratings. Biden's policies, will they move?
I'm not going to lie. I think it's literally because CNN is just more right-wing now, though.
62% said they're going to move in the right direction. 38% said they're going to move the country in the wrong direction. But keep an eye on that 62%, because we also asked how people felt that way prior to the speech. And if you compare here, before the speech started, these speech watchers, only 45% said Biden's policy would move the U.S. in the right direction. With watching the speech, that went up from 45% to 62%. Again, sort of within the norm of what we've seen in the last couple of years for him, this kind of increase in support with people watching the speech, Anderson.
Fascinating to see that change. Is that, well, let's talk about it with the panel.
I think I'm seeing that in my text messages from people. I think people went into the speech. I'm talking about people who are, friendly to Biden, probably going to vote for Biden. But
maybe they thought they meant he's moving in the right direction as in like right-wing politics, because that's what he was doing in the speech. Get it?
His policies were going to help them at all. And I think those numbers, that you go from 45% to 62%, that's as much as you can do in a speech. And I think people feeling reassured that we've got a fighter in this race and that we've got an agenda we can get behind.
I was thinking before the speech, there are a couple audiences here if I was on the campaign staff, right? There are people who are in Biden's corner, to Van's point. And then there are people, perhaps like me, who are, I'm going to vote for Biden, but I needed something tonight to now go and tell other people to vote for Biden. And that's what happened tonight. And these numbers prove it.
Yeah, that literally, she's right. She's annoying, but she's fucking right. And it's really funny because the campaign does not have any policies, which is, indicative of the attitude that they have about this reelection.
Tonight, from top White House officials. And now he is going to get on the road. His cabinet's going to get on the road. And they are going to take this to the people.
Let me ask you, what was it tonight that gave you something to tell other people about?
I think when he talked about tax credits to buy homes, that talks to like a lot of people. The thing that was funny about Katie Britt's response is, I'm not married and I'm not a mom. So what about me, Katie? Who are you talking like? And a lot of black women fall into that category. So it felt like I didn't have a place in her party or the Republican Party. But Joe Biden was saying,
damn, nobody's talking about the Israel stuff. It's crazy. When are we going to get to the Israel stuff? The tax credits. Yeah, listen, he popped off. Okay, you would have thought this man was leading the Maoist revolution. He was like rising up the peasants in the countryside. The way he was like, we're going to break up the big landlords and shit. Okay, we're going to give $400 to every American to fucking get a mortgage and buy their own home. We're going to kill landlords, that kind of shit. That's what he was hitting, right? He was hitting all those bars. Except obviously he's not going to do any of that shit. Let's be real. That's how the State of the Union works. Well, you got to balance on it. When you look at a State of the Union, where you have to fucking balance it is like especially on the 4th year, right? And his last State of the Union, it's got to be heavy with what he has done so far. It's got to be like 70% what we've achieved, what we've done, and then 30% what we'll do again. And the interesting part about that, it was flipped. It was 70% what we're going to do if you reelect me, and 30% what we've done so far. Partially because what he's done, there's a little bit out there. There's a decent amount. I've talked about it quite a bit. But obviously what he will do in the next election, this was a campaign speech, what he will do in the next time in his second term, great, he's not going to do any of that shit. Why would I believe you when you said in the first 100 days you were literally going to deliver a pathway to citizenship? And now, 4 years later, you're begging Congress to pass a fucking right-wing immigration bill that has $22 billion in increased funding for border security, to hire more Border Patrol agents, to hire better weapons, and build the fucking wall. You're begging to build the wall. That's something that a lot of people are forgetting here. Very important. That comprehensive right-wing immigration policy straight up has provisions in it, a funding mechanism to build Trump's border wall. Okay? Unimaginable. Unconscionable. Like trying to run to the right of the Republican Party on immigration is really fucking stupid.
Soft constituency, one to the...
You will, of course, not hear that on your daddy's news agency, okay? The news networks that your mom and dad watch are not going to talk about that. That's why you're watching it over here, watching me fucking lose my mind over it. But just remember, when people approach you with this kind of stuff and go, I don't really understand, like, why won't the Republicans pass it? Isn't it hypocritical? Yeah, it's hypocritical. We know they're hypocrites, dog. What the fuck are you talking about? But guess who? You know who else is a hypocrite? The fucking Democratic Party, for running against Trump's border wall and then trying to fund it 4 years later. Anyway, but here, we can laugh about hogs losing their fucking minds over Brandon's speech. And this is yet another instance where it's very clearly a solid speech, and it was good for Brandon because this is how they're talking about it.
I felt the president that was screaming, yelling.
Like he's crying. He's crying. They're such cowards. It reminds me of that one speech that he gave in Philadelphia in front of the red banners where he looked like a red alert cutscene. Do you remember that one? When every conservative was like, he just declared war on half the country. What is going on? He called us all white supremacist racists, which we are, but also it's not cool when he says it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That is good. That means he's doing well, as I hate to admit, because I fucking despise Joseph Robinette Brandon. But that is a W. There's a W for... That is a W for the Brandon camp.
Kind of ranting, a speech that was completely partisan, maybe for reasons that Joe, I guess maybe just known to himself, but I thought it was beyond bizarre at times and frankly a little frightening because it's so different than the everyday Joe that we see and hear from. What was your reaction to such a dramatic...
Yeah, he thinks he's on drugs, which he is, obviously, duh. Pretty funny that's the cope that they're going with. Oh, he's on drugs. He's on drugs, folks. Oh, God, he's so scary and on drugs and scary. He's a scary guy. Yeah, insurrectionists are not patriots. Biden taunts Republicans over border security. Is he why we have an Adderall shortage? I think so. Seems like it.
And Donald Trump didn't do anything, really, in my opinion, but definitely couldn't do it all. Neither does Joe Biden. And that's not how our government works. We have a House, we have a Senate, we have governors. He said in the speech, oh, you want my money that I got you in the infrastructure bill? Republican states didn't vote for it, but then they take it. That's the stuff that I think will resonate with voters.
We're going to get another read on the public's response to President Biden's speech. Stay with us for more results from our exclusive flash poll.
Breaking
We're
the
also
drugs,
getting reaction
Brandon, we're
from
on
members of
review from
Congress
this angle.
and from voters in the battleground state of Michigan. That's all ahead. Stay with us.
Coupled with saying vindictive things like, we hope that these people are wiped off the face of the earth, or we're going to go down, march to the border with our guns and defend the border, then you have to start to think about anger has taken a very big place in terms of a talking point for some of our politicians and some of the people who follow them.
Anthea, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You know, that point on anger, it's interesting because I feel like, I think Professor Beller is wise on these matters. But I think that issue of anger, the president is playing with that a little bit tonight, right? Because, let me play.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up. What is this?
15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, 3/4 of whom are women and children.
And it's horrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers raping.
Well, Dana, I
Palestinian
think
women.
we're not 15.
That's crazy. Demon. Straight fucking insane. Absolute monster. That's cool. At least they're not raping them. Oh, okay, got it. That's what we're doing, huh? That's the argument. First of all, there is a shit ton of sexual assault happening in detention, so that's also
He's trying to show there's a way to use emotion, even anger.
Yeah, Dana
to be
Bash,
fired
like
up,
Dana Fash.
constructive and not destructive. But I think that's his effort to kind of read the room in terms of how much so many other people in politics are playing with anger.
But to read America, because there are people that are frustrated and angry. You just heard it right there from Anthea. There's people that aren't that happy about their lives. And so a move like that, he's not coming from an elite place in Washington saying, you don't really have problems, look at the data.
right.
He's saying, it's okay, you don't feel great. There's lots of things not to feel great about.
It's also, he spent so many months or years of his presidency, including when I was there, being constrained, right? He went from running against Trump to really trying to be a uniter. That's still part of who he is. And remember, there was a story a couple weeks or months ago about how he privately talked about Trump, like using all sorts of curse words and things. You sort of saw a hint of that tonight.
Oh my God. Oh, it's a Pisaki bomb, baby. Yeah, the worst part about the State of the Union being good is that liberals will be fucking unbearable and will make a mountain out of a molehill. Oh shit. Uh-oh, I'm getting Pisaki bombed. I'm getting Pisaki bombed a little bit. I just got Pisaki bombed on the stream, which is coming at a perfect time because I was already going to end the broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs, that'll be all for tonight for me. I'm very tired, but of course I will be back with wall-to-wall banger coverage and more analysis tomorrow. Oof. That's a half day, baby. 9.5 hours. Who's doing it? Who's doing it like me? Anyway, love you all, and I will see you tomorrow. And yeah, that's it. I don't know what else to say about it right now, other than that's it. Hardest worker in the fucking biz, okay? Harder work I'm doing out here than the motherfucking oil rig workers. Anyway, love you all. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
There is again her sudden streaming, her sudden streaming, reviewing the P.O. box, Uncle Uger's face. Sudden discord at your prop, great names take embrace. Tiny Bernie Sanders, LGBTQ Air Force. The whole left at your fingertips, on at your door. Stage the crowded debate, the Young Turks online show. 3 full fucking years of this, plenty more to go. 90-day fiance talks of champagne bourgeoisie. A Trump rally live reaction on mass riot at DC. There he is again, her son is streaming. Her son is streaming. There he is again, her son is streaming. Her son is streaming. Reading a live stream, fair comments, Austin show chat advice. And all the ways the right-wing pipeline can suck you in online. JCS react, Lord frame gets broken, cover blown. A full-blown mass pandemic, monster streaming at your home. Total radicalization coming out to find. The system you were taught to trust in was broken the whole time. All these daily streams, whether big or whether small, have helped me and so many find the meaning through it all. There he is again, her son is streaming. Her son is streaming. There he is again, her son is streaming. Her son is streaming.